So a little bit about my nursing journey is I started studying enrolled nursing diploma, and then I worked as an AIN, so an assistant in nursing, out in a rural facility. So I did that for about a year whilst I was studying. I did my diploma over 2 years. So I worked as an AIN casually in the hospital, which was amazing because I got to kind of work alongside nurses and see that in a hospital setting. And then once I finished my diploma of nursing, I got a job at the same facility, very informally. I didn't really do a graduate program or anything like that. My boss at the time was like, okay, your contract's gonna change overnight. And then my first ever shift as an enrolled nurse, I was called into a night shift. I was like, okay, no orientation to enrolled nurse role, nothing like that. I was on the floor as an enrolled nurse on a night shift for the first ever time. In a rural facility. So the first ever medication that I gave was oxycodone or endone tablet, an S8 drug. And I was spending a very long time looking through the dangerous drug book, or the DD book, because it was written endone. And the order said oxycodone. And I didn't know that oxycodone was brand named as endone. So the clinical nurse at the time was like, rah, 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 it's this, So that was my first ever experience giving a drug. That was the first ever drug I ever administered as an enrolled nurse. Definitely chucked into the deep end for that one. But you know what? I struggled through it. Not struggled, it wasn't easy. It's not an easy thing to do. Learnt and reflected and yep, I want to do that. I want to learn that constantly so that I, could be the best nurse I could be, really. Once I was working there, I think I stayed there for almost a year. I did start my registered nurse degree through a distance kind of university, and did one subject, I believe, and passed that. It was definitely a different world going to university from doing a diploma. It was easier in a sense because you could pass a lot easier, but just the quantity and differing things that you had to do for each subject was very different than anything I was used to. A random essay, and then a multimedia presentation, and then a group discussion, and then it was just lots of random stuff. So that was the hardest part. It wasn't so much the academic work, but I'm not really sure if that's because I'd done enrolled nursing. So did that, and then deferred my university degree twice because I moved to more of a metro location closer to the city and worked there for another 8 months. Then started university again part-time. I did university part-time and I worked part-time. I was on a 0.8 contract as an enrolled nurse. And then I ended up finishing my degree, which was good. And then I went to do a graduate program in a very large hospital in the city I live, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I could not... It wasn't the work, it wasn't the nursing work, it wasn't learning the specialty that I'd gotten into. It was the culture, unfortunately, of the people around me. It was so unbelievably toxic, and I'm pretty resilient. I'm a pretty resilient nurse. I'd been nursing for like 3 or 4 years at that point. I was good, I could handle my own. I'd worked in lots of different teams. I'd come across multiple different personalities and whatever. So it was just a next level feeling being there that I just had no interest in being a part of, to be honest with you. So I left that and I returned to my old workplace, which was the best decision I ever made because I never wanted to leave that workplace anyway. I just didn't have any contracted hours available to work as a registered nurse, so I just took that as a sign to move on and try and do a graduate program. But I'm glad contracted hours became available. I applied and I returned to my original ward that I was on, which I was much enjoying as a registered nurse. Then got into team leading pretty quickly because I'd been familiar with the ward, obviously. And then started doing some student facilitating, and here I am working in student facilitating at the moment. So that's my nursing journey. I'm currently studying a postgraduate course to do more to do with nursing education and teaching and those kinds of things. So yeah, that's kind of my journey at this point. I return to my clinical role at the end of this year and work over Christmas, and then who knows what the future will hold for me. So thank you for listening to this very long video, my TED Talk about my nursing journey, and I do apologise for the lighting on my route home, but it's a good place to talk whilst the camera is mounted over there. So yeah, thank you for listening. If you have any questions, concerns, queries, suggestions, anything, leave it in the comments below. I look forward to hearing from you. Goodbye.